Did we get anybody signed up to speak? No, just make sure. Stan, would you like to do the
Yes, sir.
invocation?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for another opportunity to do what's right and just and fair in your sight and in the sight of the citizens of Montgomery. We thank you, Lord, that we're able to do our work judiciously and with respect to everybody concerned. We thank you for this day, and we thank you for blessing our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. Honor to Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And I didn't see no citizens forum, so we'll move right into the consent agenda. Approval of the following minutes, meeting minutes for 4/23/2024 and 5/14/2024. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Carol makes a motion. Cheryl seconds. The motion is amendable, debatable. Must be approved by majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Consideration of possible action, item 2, public hearing concerning amending Article 3, the impact fees of Chapter 90 Utilities of the City Code of Ordinance by adopting new impact fees for water and wastewater improvements attributable to new development. Gary?
David, for the public hearing, I don't see anybody, so.
We have not received any comments, right? You know, are required to hold a public hearing here, but we've not received any comments in advance of it. I'll just make sure that you've not either.
Yeah, no public comments have been received, not at this point of comments in general, so just a reminder, this is the public hearing. The actual action item on the agenda is at your June 11th.
That's when the public hearing is?
No, this is the public.
Oh, this is a public hearing. So do we need to call a public hearing?
You can open the public hearing and then
Okay. So let's open the public hearing. Any comments? No comments. We'll close the hearing. And we can move on to number 3. Consideration of possible action on an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Montgomery proposing the creation of a crime control and prevention district, creating a temporary board of directors, appointing persons to serve as temporary directors of the proposed district, and providing a savings repealing clause, severability clause, and an effective date.
Council, what you've got before you is the ordinance for the creation of the crime control district. So that was the first thing that needed to be voted upon, and then secondly, we'll do the members.
So if you recall, at our workshop, we talked about the elements of the crime control district. I think Alan was here that night and went over the state law. There are certain steps we have to take, as the chief referred to, one of which is we have to adopt an ordinance to enact this process. Once we do that, you'll appoint a temporary board of directors. This issue can only be approved by referendum. So what you're doing tonight is creating the ordinance to move forward with it. We'll have the election and referendum in the fall. If approved, then that temporary board will, I think, either become a permanent board, or you guys will appoint a permanent board, and we'll move forward with the creation of the district. So tonight, we're asking you to approve the ordinance, and then the next item would be to appoint the members of that temporary body, and that's all you need to do for tonight. And I'll be happy to answer the questions you have on this before you vote.
Does anybody have any questions?
You did find out that we have time to do all of this before an election in November?
Yes.
And does the county hold it or the cities hold it?
County.
County?
Yes.
Really? Okay. And the cost?
I don't know offhand.
Do you have any other questions, Carol?
No, sir.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the ordinance to establish the Crime Control and Prevention District.
I second that.
Motion by Stan, second by Cheryl. Motion's amendable or debatable, must be approved by majority vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we appoint the tonight?
Yes.
It's number 4.
Within
Yep.
this ordinance also would be the appointment of the temporary board of directors, so you can see the memo in your packets. We have a recommendation on those 7 members. We talked about this at your last workshop. And again, happy to answer any questions you have before you go through this list.
So if we find another member that would be a good fit for this board, I will happily step down. So
Yes,
if
the
somebody else,
law allows all the directors to have a delegate,
okay,
except for the presiding officer.
okay. I just want to make that known that if there's somebody else that we would like on that board, I would love to get off of it, so,
And there will be term limits,
yeah.
so.
You're not even on it yet.
Well, I'm about to
On
be,
it,
so
yeah. And
I just
you're-
want to make it known that there's an open seat if somebody wants it. So consideration and possible action on the appointment of a temporary board of directors for the Crime Control and Prevention District. Chief?
You guys have the list of temporary board members. Pretty much Richard Cox, T.J. Wilson, Joel Gordon, Sarah Countryman, Casey Olson, Carol Langley, and Stan Thomas.
So you can make a motion to approve the entire list and pass it that way, or you can do it one at a time if there is something that needs to be debated.
I make the motion that we accept the board that has been presented to us in total.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Stan, second. Motion is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 5, consideration of possible action regarding approving expenses for transfers and repairs on the 2012 John Deere backhoe.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council. You have the item in front of you, so our backhoe went down in February. Finally figured out it's the transmission, needs a complete replacement. It is cheaper to purchase a refurbished transmission than it is to have them refurbish the one that's in there for whatever reason. That's the way it works nowadays. So the line item only has $4,000 in it for the year. Spoke with the finance director about it. She is completely comfortable with just the simple fact that Public Works is, at this point, is still, we haven't quite hit the 50% mark on expenses. So expenses will be under for the year. Revenues are projected to be over for the year. So she's completely comfortable with the extra $20,000.
That's good. So, question for this is this the actual budget amendment, or is that something else?
Well, she said she would not do a budget amendment at this time. Just wait till the end of the year because it will end up
Okay,
that way. I've talked to Mary Ann about it, but hadn't had a chance to talk to Gary about it yet.
very good.
So it looks like the 4,000's been budgeted,
Yeah.
and we'll be able to absorb.
Another 20.
Yeah. And this is abnormal. I mean, we typically budget $4,000 a year for equipment expenses, but just having to have a big one hit us this year. It is already torn apart, and they're just waiting on our approval to get started on it.
Okay.
And we need it dearly.
When it's
Make a
green,
motion.
right?
It
Anything
hurts
with
not
green
having
paint?
Yeah, I'm ready. I make a motion that we accept item 5, which is approving expenses for transmission repairs on the 212 John Deere backhoe.
Not to exceed 24,000.
Pardon?
Not to exceed 24,000.
Not to exceed 24,000.
I second it.
Motion is made by Stan, seconded by Cheryl. Motion is amendable and debatable. Must require a majority vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number, oops, I'm sorry, Chair.
It'll have some type of warranty on it, 30 days, something?
It's more than 30 days.
It's usually a year on a transmission,
Yeah,
huh?
obviously, that.
I didn't read it, but it might have been at the very end.
I'll get that for you.
Thank you.
All right.
So-
No, you're good. Any other questions? Good?
Sorry.
Consideration of possible action on renewal of a special use permit granted to Candace Welsh for a micropigmentation tattoo business located at 401 College Street, Suite 110B, Montgomery, Texas.
Mayor and Council, as you are aware from the packet, we have a special use permit granted for micropigmentation, which is cosmetic tattoo. This was a new thing about 5 years ago, at least in Montgomery. Still follows, so as a zoning use, it is the same as a tattoo shop, which is why it has a special use permit. And so the permit is up for renewal. There are some suggestions on some stuff to take out of there. I'll be happy to talk about those with you. There was a comment from council a couple weeks ago about, trying to reduce red tape, where we can. I'll kind of go through just, if you don't have any questions right now, I'm going to go through each of those bullet points and kind of talk about those. The first bullet point that we're asking to remove, or first provision, is no more than one additional person other than residents that are living on the property. Well, it's a commercial business, there's no one living there. And if she employs, 3 people, candidly, I don't know that that's a burden on the city or anyone else. She's in a commercial suite. The bonding and insurance, there's not a requirement by the state that she maintain that. We don't ask or require any insurance or bonding from any other business in the city. So with every business open, very likely all of them, are carrying a commercial liability. However, it is not mandated by the city. So this, again, is only a suggestion, but it feels like we're singling someone out because they had to come ask. So we threw that in there just for good measure. Again, I can't, find a reason for why this is a riskier business type than any other business type out there. The third was regarding a special inspection of the property. Again, as we have talked about with various things before, the city does not need a special inspection provision. If we believe there's risk to health, safety, or welfare, then we've got the right, to look at it. And the last one is the renewal clause. Again, it's, to me, it feels like it's a burden on an applicant to say you can only practice business in this city 5 years at a time, and you get to come back and ask a brand new bunch of people, every 5 years to renew it. So it's been functioning fine with all the stuff in here. It's not a live or die, but again, if we're going to clean stuff up or renew it, these are for you tonight for consideration.
On the 5-year, don't we have some other special use permits that come up for renewal?
We have historically added an expiration on special use permits. Typically, I don't remember any. This is the first one that I've renewed in all the years I've been involved in the city. It's the first time I recall a special use permit being renewed.
What about the firewood people? Aren't theirs?
So he operates as a vendor, I believe, for some.
Not a special use permit?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, I know he has to come back every so often.
Right, he comes, and again, to that point, I'm not sure that if you're, effectively always on a site, are you really a vendor or are you a business? True. So, but again, with this, this is just The renewal action, it's a simple action. We don't have to go through the public hearings or special use process. The applicant did mention expanding her business service, but she's early on in that and looking at it. We would have to amend it if she expanded services, but right now, it's only looking to renew what she's currently has a license.
So does the permit call out eyelashes and eyebrows specifically?
It says specifically, I'll read it to you. It says,
It's not a general tattoo parlor license, right?
no, it says that it's extending to the I think the eyebrow and extending to the eyelid. I'm not an expert in this, but it is.
Thank goodness.
It does. Section 1 says includes the eyelid up to and including the eyebrow. So she has a narrow focus. She's asking about, if she got into medical tattooing for other types of things. I said, well, that would, you would need to expand that, talk with the attorneys on that. And there's no way to expand what she does, but we do have the ability to take out some things that are just, seem to be a little more burdensome on her than we put on others.
Doesn't she, obviously though, she has to have a cosmetology license, which they require.
She has to have
a state license.
So she has a tattoo license from the state.
But they inspect.
Yes.
Yes,
Sometimes.
yeah, they do all of the safety standards. I don't know how often they do, but she is licensed as a tattoo artist in the state, which is why this guy narrowly, carves out the eyelid and eyebrow for her, so.
Now we have one other one up there by Chick-fil-A in that shopping center, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Does she have these?
Very likely, because it was,
I
likely
think
just a copy
taken
and paste
from this
of
one,
that.
wasn't it?
To me, I would start to phase these, conditions out is what I'm hoping to do. But, again, if it's important to you, I don't want to make it sound like I'm recommending something that's reckless. It's just, when I look at other businesses out there, when we grant a CO to a business and say, you're ready to operate, these are things that we don't go back and look for those businesses for.
How much is this special use permit? How much are it?
To get one initially, it's $500. So this is not, but there's no cost with the renewal because there's no legal notice, there's not an ordinance that we have to, get drafted or anything else. This is just a simple council action, so there's no cost in this, but the original one was $500.
So this is just a procedure thing, it's not money or anything else?
It is a renewal, so I'll say it like that. So while on one hand, it's procedural to keep her in compliance with the city zoning ordinance, but it is a little more than procedural in that you're going to grant her the permission to keep operating.
Well, with the terms of the permit, the way it's stated in there, I don't have any issues with it, but. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept item number 6, the renewal of a special use permit granted to Candace Welch for micropigmentation tattoo business.
I second that.
Are you,
So I'd like to amend it. I'd like to amend that motion and include the recommendations as presented with the bullet points.
the removal of
Yes.
the following conditions?
Yep, the following conditions with the bullet points.
Oh, yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Do I need a second?
Second it.
You did?
I didn't know.
I need one.
Either one of us.
Okay.
Yeah, Stan made a motion, Cheryl seconded.
Yep,
Casey
I amended it.
amended it. And so,
If you guys want to, I'll stay in my lane. If you want to do it if you want to follow the steps right, you'll vote on the amendment first. So you hold the vote on the amendment to add those conditions, and then you'll hold a vote on the regular motion.
We can do it that
Two
way.
things on the floor right now. You've got an amendment on the floor and you've got your motion on the floor.
Well, I'll make a motion to amend.
I already did.
Pardon?
I already did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I amended your motion to include, so we just need to vote on it, so all in favor of the amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The amendments carry. And we'll vote on the motion to extend the permit, which is amendable or debatable, which we already did. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 7. This is a fun one. 7. Presentation acceptance of feasibility study for proposed 16.7 acre commercial development at the southeast corner of the intersection of Eva Street and 105 and FM 2854 by the H-E-B Grocery Company LP.
All right, good evening, council. Starting on page 96 of your packets, you'll see a copy of the feasibility study. There's been a lot of these lately, so I'll hit the highlights. We won't go through all the details again. So if you look at page 98, you'll see executive summary. It's also, I'll take your attention to pages 105 and 106, which are the exhibits showing the boundaries and utility extensions, et cetera, that we'll be talking about. So first and foremost, this development on total sits on a 30-acre piece of property. This is for 16 of those acres. So if you look on the cover sheet as well as in those exhibits, you'll see those 16 acres pulled out. The reason for that is the entire property is being developed, but H-E-B is only 16 acres. There is a separate developer for the remaining 15 or so that would come back for feasibility at that time. So what H-E-B is proposing is their normal shopping center, grocery store and car wash, grocery store, car wash and fuel center on the property. And then any pad sites would be by the separate developer. One thing to note is that they plan to, as part of their agreement with the seller, who owns the rest of the property, to provide the detention and do the mass grading across the entire 30-acre parcel. And then in the future, the developer will come extend utilities and develop those pad sites. So a little bit different, but the actual meat of this feasibility, the costs, the utility extensions are just for the H-E-B property. So on that, going off of the executive summary, there are 2 utility extensions required to be extended. So currently, water and sewer both end at the corner of 2854 and 105 on the southeast corner. They would extend them both east to get to their easternmost boundary, which then, that previously mentioned, second development would keep on extending them east to cover the rest of that parcel. So they would take a portion, the rest would be on the next development. As far as water and sewer capacity goes, it's kind of the same story as we talked about at the last council meeting. Capacity is starting to get tight as you have all these potential developments coming. I think this is 4th feasibility in the past 30 days or so that we presented. Not all those are moving forward, but it's kind of the same stance. So, we need to continue water plant expansions, the sewer plant expansion, which you have awarded that contract for the design of that project, continuing those along as these developments progress. As far as the summary of the costs, you'll see that on the page. They're looking at about $70,000 in water impact fees, $56,000 in sewer impact fees, $140,000 in offsite extensions and cost engineering design to go along with that project, for a total of about $280,000. For this development, they're looking at a $12 million total build-out value for ad valorem. We did not evaluate sales tax as part of this. It's not typically for us to. If they do come back for any type of development agreement or reimbursement, then sales tax will be evaluated at that time. At this level, that wasn't included. So when you look at their sales tax and your current, what you have in your tax base, look at about $45,000 a year in ad valorem tax. One thing to note on the water and sewer impact fees, those are estimated based on the new rates. So they're not official at this time. We went ahead and ran those numbers because likelihood is of them passing, so you see those are the current, or what would be the current rates at the time that this project went to planning. Other than that, a big question that we always get is time, especially when it comes to HEB, and there is not a defined timeline. The HEB will not commit to a timeline, but they do, it is our understanding they want to move forward with the mass grading detention project relatively soon, but would not commit to a timeline on the actual store itself. And another item that was brought up previously was that is the historic, there's a historic marker on the Charles B. Stewart. We discussed this with HEB and they plan to do some, didn't get into details, but some type of homage, monument, etc. on the site. So when it comes to actual development, that will be part of the conversation on it. Talked about the utility extensions required. We talked about the drainage being kind of portioned out, so they would do the whole 30 acres. As far as traffic and transportation go, this is all TxDOT driven, so there are TxDOT driveways on 2854 and 105, so TxDOT will be requiring those permits, applications, impact analyses by HEB. That would not be a city function. There are no planned thoroughfares through this site, so nothing there to consider. It's already annexed into the city. It's already zoned commercial, so again, no considerations there. And as far as we know today, there's no expected variances on the property based on their land plan setbacks that we would see. So overall, it's a pretty straightforward development. Some minor utility extensions, which we've known about, are phased out, and that's pretty straightforward.
What's our commercial setback for that residential neighborhood that's just to the south of them?
So that would have as an extra residential, I think it's a 25-foot setback with a visual barrier. And your visual barrier is either a landscape buffer or a vegetative buffer or a wall fence, etc.
But not a wood fence, right?
A wood fence would be counted as a visual barrier. It doesn't change that 25-foot setback, but as far as the visual barrier goes, it's either, and I'm close, so I know exactly, like a 15-foot thick vegetative barrier or a fence of some type. That would count as a visual barrier per your ordinance.
Okay.
And you can see a copy of their very preliminary site plan on 106.
Yeah.
And that is something that is part of the development agreement with them, which will be required is to paper up the extensions, having discussions about additional barriers, additional foliage or something along that adjacent to the residential property can definitely be brought up and considered at that time.
So right now, we're just talking about the 15 acres, right?
Correct.
And the water for the 15 acres, right?
Correct.
Do we have enough capacity with the existing facilities to provide water for the 15 acres?
As you continue, as the developments continue to build out, you need to continue to build your facilities. So as you are right now, if you stopped expanding facilities and all developments went forward, even the ones that are still preliminary, no. If you just look at the developments you have today, you're close, but we still recommend continuing to increase that capacity. Did that answer your question?
Well, I know there's no timeline. That's what makes it confusing and hard to visualize, because what I'm trying to see is you're basically saying for the whole development, we've got to have our infrastructure in place. We've got to have water well number 2 up and running, and we've got to run the sewer line and have the new wastewater sewer plant up and running in order to provide service for this whole property.
Correct.
So, I mean, from a construction standpoint, if we have to do that, it would be more expedient for us to do everything we need to do right off the bat, or just run the sewer line for the 15 acres, because we don't know when the timing.
Correct. So
I'm trying to get the timing and the money.
yeah. So I would break them up in 2 separate pieces. So the utility extensions, 100% their timeline, the only people they serve is them. So kind of, if HEB is moving forward, and that design and construction time is, the time it takes to build a HEB store, nowhere near. As far as the sewer plant capacity, you're already moving forward with those. So, we have the proposal in hand from the half who you authorized a couple of weeks ago. So that, I would expect that to get authorized at your next council meeting to begin that process. As we are today, you're sitting at about 60% of your wastewater capacity and about a little under 50-ish% on your water capacity. So, obviously what we don't know is the timing of all the developments. In our projections and when we look at the build out, we look at when, based on developer schedule, when should all these homes hit? Because that's really a lot of the driver of your connection count is obviously your homes. And, like, to use Redbird as the example, Redbird, we thought that they would have homes a while. As of earlier today, they're planning to start moving dirt on June 10th, which puts that first home of 650, 12 months, 18 months away. So, it is a timing game. So, again, the emphasis of this report and all the previous feasibilities are still the same. We can't slow down on building out our facilities and our plants and expanding, but it's always that balance game of, having it in time that we have the capacity there versus too early and we're overexpending and we don't have the revenue coming in to pay for those.
Any other questions? Nope.
Not for this.
We have a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the feasibility study for the proposed 16.75 acres commercial development at the southeast corner of Interstate of EVA and 105 and FM 2854 by HEB Grocery LP.
Do I have a second?
Second, then.
Cheryl motions, Carol seconds. Item is amendable, debatable, and must require a majority vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Item number 8, consideration and possible action on approval of the WSD&P construction plans for Montgomery Bend Section 3.
Right, good evening. So this item is for approval of the water sewer drainage plans for the third section of Montgomery Bend. This is the multi-development up on 1097. You previously approved sections 1 and 2. Now tonight, the next two items, you have sections 3 and 4, which will be the final sections of this development. Just kind of a quick update on sections 1 and 2. They just got power this week, so they're setting the final meters. So you haven't accepted any of that infrastructure yet, as we've been waiting on Entergy and power to get out there. For section 3, you have a total of 85 lots in this section. This all follows the land plan and everything that's in their development agreement. We've reviewed it to meet all of your ordinances. Any requested variances have been obtained previously. So overall, the plan set is in order. We recommend approval of the plans. And just a reminder, this is just approving the construction plans. This isn't accepting the infrastructure. There's another step that will come back to you to actually accept the infrastructure into the city, which will allow them to obtain building permits and start building homes.
I make a motion that we approve item number 8, the construction plans for Montgomery Bend Section 3.
I'll second that motion.
Stan made a motion, Carol seconds. Item is amendable or debatable, requires majority vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 9, consideration and possible action on the approval of the WSD&P construction plans for Montgomery Bend Section 4.
Right, very similar to the last item. This one has 67 lots. This is the final 67 lots of the neighborhood. One thing to note that is different, so based on their agreement with TxDOT and how they tie in, they had to do the improvements. So obviously you've seen they've done at the turn lanes that are in. Before Section 4 is they start building homes, they have to install a signal at that intersection. So they, again, this is just getting them started on the drainage and streets. Before it'll be accepted, it'll be a condition that they get the signal up and activated before they get building permits for any homes in Section 4 to meet that.
So is that conditioned in any of our agreements, or is that just with the state?
No, it doesn't need to be a condition of this. You're just approving only what you have control over, and before we recommend acceptance, which allows them to get building permits, that will be part of it. They're aware, I think they've already bid it, are getting ready to, so they're not, they didn't have to do the turn lanes till Section 3, so they got a step ahead on that, so they're ready to go.
Any questions? Do you have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve item number 9, construction plans for Montgomery in Section 4.
I second that.
Stan made a motion. Cheryl seconds. Item is amendable and debatable. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. I'm sorry.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 10. Consideration of possible action on acceptance of approximately 240 linear feet of public storm sewer on Reserve A of Montgomery Summit Business Park and commencement of the one-year warranty period.
All right, this item is a little different. So if you go to page number 164, you'll see an exhibit that's highlighted showing a storm sewer line. So before the site was developed, there was a open ditch that ran across their site, which conveyed the drainage from the culvert at the street across and then down to the channel. Part of their development of the site is they put this in a storm sewer instead, so they're able to build their parking lot across it. It is public water that's going through it, so it's a public storm sewer. So the only we're looking today is that you accept that storm sewer into a one-year warranty period, which would end on April the 10th of 2025 is when it was substantially complete, and it will be your storm sewer going forward after that. So process here, not unlike when you do a single-family subdivision, is you accept it into the warranty period. If any issues comes up during this one-year warranty time, it is on the contractor and owner, i.e. the developer, to address. As we get near the one-year warranty end date, we will do an inspection. If there's any deficiencies or things we need to address prior to full acceptance, that will be given to them to address before it's 100% city responsibility.
Was there a preliminary punch list?
There was a lot of back and forth. This project has been done for a while. There's a lot of, and Zach reminded me, they had some inlet cleanup to do, if I remember right, and then getting the as-built plans, because they had made a modification closer to Buffalo Springs where it was originally designed with one type of inlet. They changed it to another because it functioned better. But I don't have that punch list in front of me.
So, and like I said, this is stormwater, so it goes into our system, storm system?
Correct. Yeah, it comes from the roadside ditch coming down Summit Park Drive. So it's that public water that goes through to the ditch, or to the creek.
It goes to the creek. And we've inspected where it dumps to the creek, there's adequate,
Yes. This is upstream on the other side of 1097 of where the sewer issue is.
yeah.
But where this is outfalling.
Yeah, we just don't want a problem on both sides of 1097.
Correct. Yeah, this is not impacted that.
So a motion?
I make a motion that we accept item 10, which is the public infrastructure and commencement of the one-year warranty period. What's the date?
April 10th.
April 10th, 2023.
I second the motion.
Stan made the motion. Cheryl seconds. Motion is amendable and debatable. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 11, consideration and possible action on calling a public hearing to be held on July 9th, 2024 regarding a proposed amendment to Chapter 98 of the City Code of Ordinances.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, this item tonight is narrowly just calling a public hearing. If you will recall, a few meetings ago, we had an application for a special use permit for a small outdoor event venue. The direction from council was to consider allowing that use by right. In other words, we did not call that public hearing. We did not want the application to move forward. Instead, council gave direction to staff to take a look, see what it would take to add it. I'm happy to talk about any of that stuff in the, with regard to the proposed text amendment. But again, the narrow action tonight is to call this public hearing for the 9th of July. And you can see the schedule there at the bottom of the first page of the memo and kind of how we outline those to get the P&Z public hearing. We published one legal notice, so saves us a little money there. And we'll follow through with, again, the P&Z action, the public hearing from council, and then consideration of the ordinance on the 9th. Take a minute to add if you've got any thoughts on the proposed text amendments. Feel free to reach out to either Gary or I, and we'll be glad to look at it, talk about it.
Is that a normal city council meeting?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry,
At 6
my
o'clock.
memo had put that it was the second council meeting of the month. It is not. It's the first council meeting of the month.
Okay. And it'll be advertised in the Conroe Courier?
Yes, ma'am. I'll confirm. I think we published it twice. I can't.
Do you have to send out letters?
With the text amendment like this, that would affect all zoning districts. There's not a requirement. I'm kind of getting into Caleb's world here, but it's not a requirement if we're changing everything that would apply to the entire zoning class. Just that legal notice is only a real kind of practical way to notify everybody. So it's not like a rezoning where you've got a 200-foot boundary that you've got to notify.
We're calling it an accessory use.
That's right. So kind of the idea behind the accessory use, to touch on that real quick, it's a very good point, is an accessory to a primary use. The idea or the intent behind that is to not have a 5-acre vacant parcel out there that somebody can just turn into an outdoor event venue, kind of go from raw land to something without any type of a primary use. So the idea is that this would be incidental to some type of a business that already existed on the property, or that's the way it's at least contemplated at the moment.
So the ones that are not, that are using it that way now and don't have another use, are they grandfathered in? Or are they going to be?
To me, if I looked at someone, like a Chandler's is the one that comes to mind. To me, when you've got when that's effectively like a restaurant. Yep, they're holding events inside that building, dinner parties and such inside that building. That doesn't feel like it's an event venue necessarily. I understand that, zoning sometimes operates in gray areas, but again, if you've got a site that has every feature that you need, that was a former restaurant to host dinners and stuff inside of a building, and small engagement type activities or small engagements there. This being, again, this here would allow folks who already have an existing business of any type, if they're permitted, if they had an outdoor patio, if they had an inside meeting room, something like that, they would be able to hold, small events that aren't necessarily, related to their business, right? So it's not like you're a realtor and so you're holding a builder showcase type thing. This would be, for whatever events you wanted to have.
Caleb, do you see any issues with that, like pertaining to what Carol's referring to, where if the business is, it's basically his primary business is an event center, a venue? Because we do have that one that sits downtown that it says it right on the sign when you drive by it, so.
Well, I know a Hodgepodge Lodge was a restaurant. Now he's not. And he only holds special events there.
So he operates under a special use
So-
permit, so he's a bad one to kind of compare to because he's
He
got,
already did what?
he operates under a special use permit that was granted to the owners before it was transferred to Jeff. It was the Weems, WEEMS.
But there's a business on the corner right there at Caroline, I think it's Caroline,
Yeah,
that says right on the sign, event venue or whatever.
right.
And
That's,
it's not open unless you rent it to hold a shower or a wedding party or something.
right. So would this
So-
qualify that, since it's not, it's independent business outside of a venue?
So my recommendation here is to define whatever use we're creating as accessory. I thought it was going to be just an event.
It is.
Um,
I think what we're looking at here, must be an accessory use to existing primary use.
Okay, so that's the definition. And I guess,
That's just a proposed one as of now. This,
Right.
again, this language can get, massaged as we need it to ensure that we're, capturing the intent of the council.
okay, yeah, and I guess I need a little more context on the situation you're describing.
So there's a business right now on Caroline that is an event venue. That's all it is. It doesn't have a primary business. Its primary business is to be a venue. So this would disqualify that because it's not an accompanying another business. It is the business.
Okay. So you might want to tweak the definition
Again,
to make it more broad.
yeah.
Yeah. so that would-
Kind of what we're trying to prevent, again, is that, 1 to 2 acre parcel owner who thinks that they're, oh, well, if I, put up an arbor out there, I've got a wedding venue right here. And that's not the intent of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is to allow a use that would not impact, public services and things like that. And also wouldn't be the development of just raw land without going through any type of a development, permit or process.
I understand that.
I get the intent, but how do we word
It
it?
says primary permitted use, and that does not have a primary
Right.
permitted
Right.
use.
But I tell you what, if you will call this public hearing, I will promise to sort that out before it gets back to you.
Yeah, we might need some assistance, Caleb, with the wording.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, I thought we were just creating an event venue type of line item, so I don't recall seeing that specific definition, but yeah, all we're doing tonight is calling the public hearing, so we have,
But yeah, but we just need to
Yeah,
prepare them so that
I
we're
want to
ready
make
for that.
sure
Yeah.
that we all understand why we're doing the public hearing.
Yes.
We don't need
well, I
to,
think this is the only option we had because we didn't want to go the SUP route, right? Am I thinking about the right?
It's for the text. Yep.
Yeah, it was either the SUP, which we didn't move forward with, and then this is amending the Chapter 98 table of permitted uses.
Yes.
So it's either SUP or
that
no.
is. And we know enough that, at present, to craft that legal notice to let people know exactly what the public hearing is about. It won't have the definition in there, the exact wording of the definition. It's just going to say, to consider, adding this as a use to the table of uses. So again, we can, work that to still accommodate, again, those kind of small outliers like a Chandler's Events without, again, just kind of giving free rein to anybody with a vacant, piece of land to think that we would allow them to come in, set up, start hosting events on raw land. Special event permits and things that they work with, with the police department, the Charlie Diggs and those things, those are a little bit different than what we're trying to, to target here.
All right. So, yeah, we just need to make sure we get it worded correctly. Because the intent, we understand the intent. We just, if it's not stated right, any, lack of better phrase, jerk can come along and do what they want, right? So,
And what we'll do, I'll work with Dave and maybe have more than one option so we can present to council, and that way we can go with whatever council wants to, whatever option we choose.
Cool. All right, so the item on the table is to make a motion if we want a public hearing for July 9th.
I'll make a motion that we do the public hearing. One thing about it, Dave, it says primary, that does bother me, primary permitted land use. That does bother me, but
We'll work that.
We'll work on
Probably
that.
should get that right.
okay. A possible action for the public hearing to be held on July the 9th of 2024 regarding a proposed amendment to Chapter 98 of the City Code of Ordinances.
For a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Carol. Motion is amendable or debatable. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries. All right, item number 12, consideration of possible action on a resolution of the City Council of the City of Montgomery, Texas, approving a local on-system improvement project agreement with the state of Texas, acting through the Texas Department of Transportation for certain improvements to the SH 105 and Buffalo Springs Drive intersection, designating the city administrator or designee as the authorized official to accept, reject, amend, or terminate the agreement, and making this resolution a part of the agreement.
Right, good evening. This sounds very familiar to what you saw back on March 26th, as it is. Y'all approved this resolution prior. TxDOT didn't think it was specific enough and didn't say the name of the intersection, so they wanted some more specifics in the resolution. That's what's in front of you tonight, so it now says specifically for that intersection, and it authorizes your city administrator to sign on your behalf. I think that obligation is the same. This is still the same improvements project that city's undertaking. Home Depot is funding. Doesn't change any of that. It's just slightly different wording to get it in TxDOT's desired format.
Any questions? We have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Stan second. Carol made the motion. Stan seconds. Motion is amendable or debatable. Must require a majority vote. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Move on to item number 13, departmental reports, utility operations.
Good evening. I'll keep it quick. Overall accountability at 95%. Any water quality complaints? None? All right, I haven't heard any either. So I was just making sure from the council I didn't have any. And then the big news is that we've completed the repair on the wastewater treatment plant right actually before the council meeting last month, and we were able to make sure that we made it within permit. So no issues with being out of permit despite essentially having your clarifier completely down for almost 24 hours. So I'm pretty proud of that actually. So anyway, just wanted to let you guys know that's kind of the big news, and really nothing else of any real note to talk about on my report. Anybody else any questions? That'd be the end of my report. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Y'all have my monthly report in front of you. Be happy to answer any questions related to it. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor, Representative, and Council. You have a report in front of you there. If you have any questions, we're glad to answer your questions. If not, I'd like for you to remember tomorrow is graduation of our Citizens Police Academy. You guys are welcome to come to that graduation, have dinner with them, speak with them. Starts at 6 p.m. at Peace Shack.
What time does it start, Chief?
6
Ma'am,
p.m.
6 p.m.
Quick question, Chief, when the power was out the other day, I think it was last Tuesday, was it right after our council meeting or something like that? Do we have any calls, too much going on? With half the town being dark?
Didn't have a whole bunch of calls. Mainly, what we noticed was just 105. A lot of the businesses along there, lights were out, and then when you turn, the lights would be on in other places, but didn't get a lot of calls. Just started patrolling the businesses.
Good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. You have my court report for April 2024 in front of you. The citations were 174 and collections was $33,717.99. Do you have any questions for the court?
Was April a larger amount than, did warrants come in or something?
We have had some warrant phone calls and we have been doing some warrant collections, but it was
Okay.
basically our normal monthly, it's pretty close to the same amount. Yeah.
Compared to last year, it was quite a bit more, not compared to last month, though. You're
Well,
right.
hopefully people are making a lot more money in 24,
Yeah.
so I think that's what we're doing.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Gary, are you stepping in for Mary Ann?
Oh, Mary is not here. We sent the non-essential folks home business hours. I can take whatever questions you have to Mary Ann.
Okay.
I certainly can't step in for her. Do you have any questions you want me to relay to Mary Ann? You do have a calculator. Work it out.
We'll email her.
As a whole, we look pretty good. We're still staying under budget pretty much, so that's
Yeah,
good.
all funds are still looking good. I don't think there's much more that she would add than what she gave you guys in the workshop.
Do you know who AXON Enterprises is?
Axon, would that be it?
Yeah,
Body worn cameras?
Yeah, that would be cameras.
Okay.
Cool.
I don't have any other questions.
About 517% increase from last year on sales tax. Looks good. Y'all have any questions for the finance report?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to Chris.
Evening again. Starting on first page of our report, your water plant number 2 improvements project. We did receive bids. They came in high. We're going through with contractors to figure out, we had only 2 bidders on it for a project that was low. So we're meeting with a handful of people who didn't bid to come back with a recommendation on how to proceed on that project within budget. Lone Star permit amendments, those are still ongoing. We talked to Lone Star today. Those are likely on their next agenda for approval of both of those. Your 1097, or Yeah, the 1097 sewer relocation project. As we talked about last meeting or between meetings, that line did fail, so that bypass system is set up. We have received that survey back. We're finishing up design of that project. Have already talked to the property owners next door about the easements. They're open to granting the easement that we need. Talked to him on Friday. We'll send him an exhibit today. So hopefully, and we also got with the attorney due to the nature of it. This is an emergency to repair, so we'll be able to shorten the bidding time a bit to keep this moving. So I would expect here, likely next week or the following, we will get bids to go ahead and have this either your next or the following council meeting to minimize the amount of time that we're pumping that system.
Now, this was this is the one that came up unexpectedly, unplanned, and we were looking in the budget to make sure we could cover it, right?
Correct. And I'll get with Mike and Mary Ann and Gary and Dave on Friday and identify that.
Because like you said, it failed, so we have to do it one way or the other. So if we don't have a budget, we need to find a project on here that we can cut.
Right. We'll do. We'll have that next meeting. Talk about it. Sewer rehab projects, both of those are ongoing. So phase one, weather's been holding up and then some equipment issues, so they should be wrapping up here this month, or next month, I should say. The phase two project, which is the one right outside, we had that pre-construction meeting with the contractor. They expect to get started mid-June. Moving on to page 2 of our report, lift station number 10 improvements. That project's about 70% complete as of the last pay estimate. However, since then, that line is now in service, so they're just doing some cleanup items and decommissioning the old line that was in. That is the Pulte funded project. The old Plantersville Force Main Extension project is about 80% complete. That's the one right outside that's Redbird funded, so that was moving along well as well. On to page 3, big updates. So obviously on the Buffalo Springs Drive, that construction work started. If you driven by, so they are going along, no issues so far. We don't expect any at this point. We've been coordinating between them and the signal contractor. They're on the same page. Right now, it sounds like the majority of the work will be done prior to the signal contractor having materials and being on site. On to the development section on page 4, a bunch of plan reviews over the month since we last presented a report. So the MISD CTE building, those plans were approved. The agreement is in MISD's court regarding the cost sharing. So that has been in their hands now for a week or so, week and a half. Lone Star Cowboy Church, those plans were approved at the end of April for their driveway project. And the fuel station for MISD, so this is the redo of the bus barn. We've been going back and forth on plan review comments. They're now down to they're potentially requesting an additional tree variance for that property. They haven't sent any details, so Dave is waiting on information from them what they're proposing. Moving on to page 5, all the ongoing construction related to the the Pulte Montgomery Bend development, minus the business park line. As of this morning, they finally got the power energized in the first section of the development, so they should have power to the lift station by the end of this week. So we'll go back and inspect the lift station and start that process. And then, as I alluded to earlier, the Redbird first phase of their development, they're expected to start the week of June 10th on moving dirt on that site.
So, quick question, and we talked about this many months ago about the water issues with Redbird.
Yes.
For the well. When is that proposed to be?
So they're constructing the water line loop that goes from by the high school down Old Dalton, Plantersville to Womack Cemetery. They're also dedicating the well site. So we talked with staff. We've started that RFQ to send out to get engineering qualifications for that design of the water line.
Okay.
So that's ongoing. They haven't deeded the site over to, but we've talked to the developer. He will deed it whenever the city's ready to go. It's part of the future phase. Last thing I have on page 6, so one thing that's been on this agenda, which will not be after this, is your emergency preparedness plans. This was I think February of 22. It was required to be submitted, and TxDOT finally is starting to approve them, so we got approval on April 17th. So that can finally come off our list. Other than that, you'll see a copy of the updated developments map. Following that, it shows all the developments in either planning, design, feasibility, construction, where they stand. And there's I don't see any questions for me.
Yes, I want to go back to item 1, the water plant number 2 improvements.
Yes.
Last month, I think I heard y'all say that you were going to include putting that plant on bleach. I don't believe that was in the initial price of redoing the well, so I'm wondering how much additional cost are we going to pay to transfer that well to bleach?
Let me check, and I'll let you know. I don't have that answer in front of me.
Okay. And also, I'm still a little bit concerned about access. There's supposed to be an easement, and we don't find it on the maps anymore. And then the historical property that's for sale, I don't know if it's been sold or if it's still for sale, but whoever buys it, that's a kind of going to interrupt what I perceive right now as our easiest way of getting a drilling well back into that property, because right now I can't visualize how we're going to get the new well drilled.
Sure. So the well is closer to the end of Houston Street, the new well. So right now, if you go down Houston Street where it dead ends into the city property, the well is located there. And part of the bid package is to rehab that road that is non-existent, to bring in new gravel and stabilize it for access back there. There is also an easement to the western side of the property that Public Works has up to that property owner for use temporarily during construction. As far as the Historic Society property goes, which is where a lot of the access has been, with the new kind of configuration, the primary access point would be off the end of Houston Street instead of the Historical Society property.
Okay.
That's Jim's property.
Any other questions? Carol?
Nope.
Cool. Take a motion to accept departmental reports.
I'll make a motion to accept the reports.
I second.
Carol made the motion. Cheryl seconded. Motion is amendable or debatable. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, all opposed say no. Motion carries. Executive session. We do have something, I take it. Is this, Gary, is this executive session, is this still valid?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We want to adjourn into closed executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Government Code of the State of Texas. The City Council reserves the right to discuss any of the items listed specifically under this heading or for any items listed above in executive closed session as permitted by law, including if they meet the qualifications in sections 551.071. Executive session. We're back from executive session. No action from executive session. We have any council inquiry?
Not I.
Need a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Cheryl makes a motion. Cheryl seconds. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Casey.
Welcome to the board.
Coming back.